There are a ton of really strong characters in Marvel Rivals, and I chose just 10 of them for this video that I think are absolutely S tier and incredibly powerful. If you're looking for a hero to main that has all the tools to hard carry any game you're in, no matter what random composition you're stuck with, then look no further, this is the video for you. Now, we have a lot of crazy guides coming soon, so you're going to want to smash that subscribe button and check out the Discord down below where we are building an amazing community for Marvel Rivals. Let's get into it. Now, the first character we gotta talk about, I think, is the best DPS in the entire game, and it's Hela. Now, Hela is going to be doing consistent high burst damage from range, has a crowd control ability that is really good at stopping flankers, divers, or even abusing tanks in the front line, and has really great mobility. No matter what the opponent is walking out of the spawn with, Hela is going to be just fine up against literally anything. And one of the things that I love about Hela so much is she has something that I like to call a checkmate ultimate. In certain situations where enemies are in overtime, they have to contest the objective, or they don't have specific support ultimates to deny you, your ultimate is going to be an I win the game button. I mean, how many times have you played in Marvel Rivals, you've heard Hela's ultimate activate, and then you're just filled with a sense of dread? And the main tip I'll give you on Hela is about your effective range. Hela's effective range is incredibly far away, and there's only a couple of characters like Hawkeye and Black Widow that might be slightly more effective at further ranges than Hela. But the majority of the time, you are going to want to maintain your distance because you are going to dish out far more damage than anyone is going to be able to deal you in those same ranges. Even though you're lessening your damage because you do have fall off, you are still trading out damage in a super favorable rate. And what this means is that you need to be constantly rotating around the map away from threats. If you see a Spider-Man wrap around the right flank, you need to start wrapping towards the left side, counterclockwise away from him. You got to think of, like, if he's rounding the loop to the right, you're rounding the loop to the left on the other side, constantly staying away, keeping that distance. The harder and harder you make it for that Spider-Man to get on top of you, and the more cooldowns you force him to use to get onto you, the easier it will be for you. And in all the transitionary periods where he's navigating through areas trying to get to you, there are going to be windows where you can deal damage to him, mess up his entire engage, or even kill him. And the more opportunities you give yourself to shut down these things without using your movement ability, the easier it will be to just never be able to be countered on Hela. And number 2 on the list, definitely an amazing character, is Mantis. I think Mantis is phenomenal right now because she really does everything that you could want out of the supporting role. Consistent heals and other ways to impact the fight. So not only are you going to be able to consistently heal your team, but you're also going to be able to damage boost them. You're going to be able to damage boost yourself. You're going to be able to sleep any character that comes close to you. That's easy to hit and basically neutralizes them for a very long time. And you output a lot of damage. Like, Mantis is actually able to win a lot of 1v1 duels, especially backed by her sleep ability. And for those of you who don't know, Mantis gets all of her ability to amplify or heal by hitting headshots. So the better mechanically you are on this character, the more damage you're dealing, the more heals and damage boosts other pieces of utility you'll have. So you basically are incentivized to deal damage, and she's good at it, and she's good at doing everything else. Not to mention her ultimate, which is going to speed boost and heal her entire team, and is a great counter ultimate to many of the super strong checkmate ultimates that exist in the game. I think Mantis can fit into literally any team composition and is one of the few characters I think you could justify one-tricking in Marvel Rivals. And number 3, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is just really a great tank, especially in the chaotic nature of ranked where you might end up solo tanking. Doctor Strange got you covered with consistent area denial because he outputs a lot of damage, and he has a massive barrier that can stop cooldowns, stop regression, and really can keep himself alive. I think Doctor Strange is really good because he has a lot of tools to keep pressure off of him while simultaneously take on pressure and not just fall over. There's a lot of tanks that will get hit by a whole bunch of cooldowns, they'll fall over, they'll die. Doctor Strange, not so much. He has ways to mitigate those things while still being able to output a crazy amount of damage. And his ultimate has to be a top 3 ultimate in the entire game. The majority of the time, if you have even a slight bit of follow-up, you'll wipe multiple people with this ultimate. And even by yourself, you can definitely wipe like 2 squishes committing to a dive on top of you with this ultimate. It's just a mass CC that allows you to just focus everyone that gets hit by it. And it's one of those ultimates that is incredibly hard to shut down and stop. I just want you to make sure that if you pop this ultimate, you need to focus on the characters that have either 1, ultimates that can could stop you. So like if you pop it, you need to kill like the Mantis first, or you need to kill the Luna Snow first. You can't let those characters live if you pop it on top of them. And then 2, if there are other characters there that have ultimates that can potentially flip the fight, you want to focus them as well. Now, my general tip for Doctor Strange is try not to just use your barrier just to stand there and take damage, right? Oftentimes, you're trying to use it as a mitigation tool so that you can push up, apply damage, back up, give space. You're like putting pressure and relieving pressure, putting pressure and relieving pressure. You're not necessarily using your barrier just to stop damage coming in, but you're using it to allow your team to push up, apply pressure, and allow your team to get angles and damage on the enemy, and most importantly, to stop cooldowns, because getting crowd control is like one of the worst things possible, and there's a lot of things that can shut you down. Crowd control CC that is going to stun you, pull you, whatever. But also make sure, just because you have a lot of health total and an artificial barrier doesn't mean you can't stand near pieces of cover, geometry on the map, because when your cooldowns are down, when you don't have them, or when your shield is broken, you want to be able to go behind a wall, regenerate your cooldowns before you press. It's a cycle of cooldowns. It's a cycle of you being full health before you push forward. And it's when you're at a disadvantage, you back up. And when you're at an advantage, you push forward. This is like the ebb and flow of what a tank should do. Now, the next DPS we have to talk about is Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye is going to be known as one of the most powerful DPSs very soon. Some people have already picked up on it, but really, this DPS is insane. He's extremely good against characters like Hela, against characters like Punisher, against characters like Winter Soldier, and every support in the game he's good against as well. He can just get free kills. You point at a tank, you charge up your primary, and you shoot the backline. And you're going to kill Sharks, you're going to kill Lunas, you're going to kill Hellas. You're just going to farm people on this character. And crosshair placement is the most important thing. Constant damage towards certain angles where people are playing around a piece of cover. They're jiggling around that cover. You can constantly threaten that with a shot that maybe you miss 5, but on the 6th one, you nail that headshot, you get a free kill. How hard is it to kill a goddamn Jeff the Shark? It's so freaking hard. Hawkeye can just snipe that bitch from across the map. Like, it's so powerful what this character can do. And then in certain situations, you can pop your ultimate, have just instant one-shot because it's automatically charged up. People are, once again, put in a checkmate situation where they're too far in the open. By the time they get to cover, you're going to be able to kill them for free. There's nothing they can do about it. And yeah, on a lot of the long-distance points, long-distance maps against really difficult matchups that play at range, Hawkeye can just completely dominate. I think it would be a good idea for the vast majority of DPS players to learn Hawkeye as like a 3rd or 2nd option just to have in their back pocket, because there are so many maps and areas that are just really long, far-sighted. If there's a Hela farming you, or you can't really dive in because you don't have dive tanks, then this guy is just perfect. He's so freaking strong. But one of the tips I'll give you is never, ever use your dynamite arrow. The triple arrow, it's absolutely terrible. Like, there's literally not a situation where that is useful. I'll die on that hill. No situation. Now, the second support we got to talk about is Luna Snow. And Luna Snow is going to be a great all-arounder. Has reasonable mobility, has a fantastic ability that allows her to mark somebody, heal someone else, and then the person they marked actually gets healed, which is amazing because you could put that mark on a diver or someone that's hard to hit, a squishy, and then heal your tank, and you're simultaneously doing both. That's why Luna is just really, really good at outputting those heals and making sure that everyone gets the type of heals they need, because as you know, squishies don't need as much heals or focus as a tank, so being able to do both at the same time is really, really great. Not to mention, you do have a Frost Sleep, which allows you to shut down a lot of characters, and if you're duoing with Luna Snow, which I would probably suggest, if you just freeze somebody, it's super easy with just a little bit of help from someone else to just kill that diver. Any diver you hit, you're gonna have enough time to turn on them, kill them, and just, yeah, get a free kill. And if they don't play around your ability or you hit your ability, you're just gonna win that fight. Now, the true best thing about Luna Snow is undoubtedly her ultimate. Her ultimate allows you to survive against basically anything. Like, all the ults in the game, all the problems in the game, anything that can happen, her ultimate is the truth to deny it. And maybe one of the best ultimates, if not the best ultimate in the entire game, just because because it lasts for so freaking long. It allows you to survive through pretty much anything, and it also can increase your teammates' damage, allowing them to just basically win a fight or turn a fight after you stabilize, after you survive whatever ultimate they used. Now you get to ramp up that damage and then just close out the fight and make your team more lethal. Now, the trick here is not to get your ultimate forced out early, especially if you know they have a powerful ultimate and you have your ultimate to shut it down. You have to position safer and have that ultimate on your mind, because wasting your ultimate when your team is under pressure, or using your ultimate too early, or just dying because you're playing too far out is gonna make it so you lose the fight, because your ultimate was the way to stop their ultimate, which was their win condition. So you have to be thinking about these things more, and if you do, you're gonna win a lot more fights. Now, number 6 is Venom, and Venom is a great dive tank. I think he's one of the best solo carry ranked tanks, period, because he has a lot of sustain, and he gets to threaten a lot of characters that play by themselves, off angle, don't play together. A lot of the problems that people have in like a crazy solo chaotic queue, where people aren't peeling for each other, people aren't helping each other out, people aren't looking out for each other, people aren't playing together. Venom feasts on all those things, and I really love that he's a really independent tank that can operate without a secondary tank. So you could be solo tank Venom, and in addition to that, whether you have long distance damage dealers like Hela or like Hawkeye that can follow up on your slams from range and apply pressure, or you have divers like Psylocke or like Iron Fist or Spider-Man or whatever, you're going to be able to still work with these players to dive enemy teams, eradicate backlines, win team fights. But I want to make it clear, this is the biggest mistake Venom players make, and it's going on to targets when their team is not ready to engage the same target. If you're slamming on a target, slamming on a team, you can't do it alone. I understand you're faster than everyone. I understand you can go in really fast. But if you're slamming in the far back line, your divers haven't even got there yet, your DPS players can't even see the back line, then no one's going to help you. I mean, are you going to kill everyone yourself if they're all grouped up? Absolutely not. You need to find situations where your team, what they're looking at, what they're doing, lines up with what you're slamming. And thankfully on Venom, you can set up on a wall, you can wall climb, you can be patient, and sometimes there's going to be moments where you set up someplace, you wait, you look, you see where your team is before you go in, and your engagements are going to go a whole lot better every single time. The number 7, the third DPS on this list, and I think the best dive DPS in the game, is Psylocke. Now, Psylocke might be broken. I mean, this character is phenomenal. A consistent amount of damage, even from range with hit scan weapons. You have multiple dashes that you get back through your poke, and your poke is hit scan. So as you're transitioning throughout the map, you can dash, poke a little bit from far away and like tanks, and get another dash back while you're doing that, because you're going to constantly take off seconds off your cooldowns. You have an invisible, which can be used in a lot of different ways. You could kill someone and invis out. You can invis to sneak up on someone. You could fight somebody, dip around the corner, invis, and then outplay them, go back in, leave. You have all these options with invis, and one of the things that people don't know about her alternate fire is you can throw it against a wall, look at someone or multiple people, pull it back, and it will bounce to the front wall and bounce through all those players, so you're actually going to do a giant burst of damage. Not to mention her ultimate is just gonna kill people as long as you don't ult everybody, focus squishies, and make sure that you're keeping track of support ultimates. It's actually pretty easy to bait out a lot of Luna Snow ultimates, a lot of Mantis ultimates. By just pressuring them a lot, you're gonna go invis, you're gonna use a whole cycle to just bait out the cooldowns, try to get away, reset, then go back in, hit them with your ultimate, and you're gonna team wipe them. Now, this character is S tier even without the synergy, and it definitely helps that she's good against characters like Hela and characters like Hawkeye. But when you add that synergy with magic, this character goes from fantastic to maybe the most broken character in the game. This character has so many ways to outplay people, from multiple dashes to an ultimate that makes you very, very hard to hit, if almost impossible, and a invisibility, right? But now you have a recall that will heal you. There's really almost no way that you should die unless you get one shot, unless you're getting outskilled. And that's a great place to be with a character like this. It's like, if you get better, if you put in the effort, you get amazing at this character, now all of a sudden, you can just completely hard carry games. But for my piece of advice, you also need to have a setup phase where you're trying to go in on targets at the same time as your team. If you have divers, it's easy. Go in when your team is going in at the same targets, and y'all can delete them very quickly. If you don't have divers, you could still play Psylocke, You just need to wait for your team to apply pressure, right? Because, like, if you just attack randomly, let's say you attack a Luna Snow in the back line, and she could turn around on you, she can try to fight you for a long time, she can freeze you, whatever. Maybe her team comes back for her. This is not good, right? But imagine your team, maybe you just have a normal traditional front line, is fighting their front line. What do the supports have to do? They have to heal the front line. But now all of a sudden you're behind them. So now they have to, they need to save their front line, but now they need to deal with you. And then if they try to deal with you and ignore their front line, now their front line needs heals. You see how you're adding to the pressure at the same time? But if you go before your team is ready, now they get to deal with you, they get to flush you out or kill you, and then they get to deal with the front line. You need to combine the pressure at the same time. And this is true for pretty much any diver, period. We talked about it with Venom a little bit. It's important with Psylocke as well. Now, number 8 and our third support on this list, and I think a support that is not getting enough love for how good he is, Adam Warlock. This guy gets to output a consistently high amount of DPS and have heals that can just completely mitigate plays. I mean, the fact that his heal pack gets to chain to multiple people can just turn a fight, like, out of nowhere. Everyone could be low, and you could be like, okay, press, press, press. And we talked about the press and pull of a fight where you're pressing when you have an advantage and you're pulling when you're not. You could be pressing, thinking that everyone's low, and boom, everyone's full. And now you're overextended, pushed into them, expecting to be able to kill people. And Adam Warlock just completely turned that with an ability or two. And that is just crazy. Combine that with Soul Bond, and now not only are they all healed up, but now they're much harder to focus and kill, and the DPS can be more aggressive, the tank can be more aggressive, people are going to be more alive, harder to kill, harder to burst through. And if that was it on Adam Warlock, high damage and really strong abilities that could turn fights, he would already be very, very good. But then combine that with his ultimate, which allows him to potentially resurrect an entire team. And I want to make it clear here that I actually don't think you should try to resurrect an entire team. In my opinion, the best way to use an Adam Warlock ult is to maintain parity. Let's say you're fighting, and one of your teammates gets picked off. It could be your tank, or it could be your DPS, or another support. Whatever the case may be, you are now at a pretty big numbers disadvantage. But if instead you pop your ultimate, you level the playing field, all of a sudden, whatever play your opponent made gets wiped away, gets washed away. And if anyone else dies immediately afterwards, they will also get resurrected by the Adam Warlock ult. And the reason that this is really, really strong is because it prevents enemies from taking their slight advantage and using it to put additional pressure, because you got to think about it. If you're under pressure as two supports because there's so many people to heal and there's people after you, imagine how much pressure you are with one support, or imagine how pressure you are going from 2 tanks down to 1 or 1 tank down to 0, right? All of a sudden the fight feels very uncomfortable, very hard to win, and Adam Warlock can just wipe that away. Well, you don't even need to get to the stage where you're uncomfortable. It's like you just completely wiped away a mistake, wiped away an ultimate, wiped away a play. And yeah, I mean, that's just fantastic on this character. Not to mention you can resurrect yourself. It is on a very long cooldown, but that can just win you fights by itself, being able to resurrect yourself, get yourself back into the fight, resurrect yourself, ult someone, resurrect 2 more people. Now your team is back into the fight. Adam Warlock just does a little bit of everything you could possibly want. And a lot of people are sleeping on him compared to many other supports, but he might be the support that if you master, you could really carry the hardest. Now, number 9 is Groot, and this is another tank that I think is a great solo carry tank. I know that there are other tanks on this list that I could have thrown on here, but I want to kind of make a list that are strong characters that kind of speak to the reality of ranked as it is for the majority of players, which is maybe you are the only tank player, right? But if you're Groot, you have all the tools that you need to win a game, right? You can control choke points, wall them off, cut off heals from the front line to the back line, putting a lot of pressure. I mean, breaking through your Groot wall, it's really, really difficult. Most people just give up and go around it, to be honest. And identifying where those choke points are, what you can wall off, whether it's an angle or whether it's, you know, cutting off a player from retreating, that is a way that you can just create a pick by yourself. In addition to that, Groot just has the highest base health total. Really, really tanky, really, really hard to hit. He can eat a ton of cooldown, CC, whatever, and he's just fine. He's staying alive, and you play around your walls, and now you're just kind of unkillable in a lot of ways. I would give you a disclaimer on this character, though. One of the things that can happen a lot is you, like, try to wall off a person, and you accidentally wall off your flanker. Like, your flanker has an idea to go around the edges into the back line and then come back to the team through mid. You need to be aware of that. You can drop your wall at a whim, so if you're not paying attention, You can just kill your teammates really, really easy. And also, opponents can easily use your wall to their advantage too, to like stage onto point, you know, go from one wall to the next. So you got to be careful about that. There are ways in which you could use your abilities to hurt your teammates or help the opponents. But right now, I think Groot is just a really great all-arounder DPS, especially if we're talking about compositions that aren't diving, compositions that are poking. You have like a Hawkeye, you have like a Hela. Groot really plays well into that. Groot also plays really well into characters like Winter Soldier, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, Groot, great tank. I definitely recommend him. And I would give a lot of honorable mentions here in the tanking role. I think like Thor is actually super underrated, which we'll talk about in a different video. Characters like Magneto are also fantastic as well. But my official tier list will come out in like 5 days, so you're gonna have to wait till then to see where everything is officially placed. Now, the 10th and final character, the 4th DPS, is Winter Soldier. And I could actually put a couple of DPS here. I think there's a lot of DPS around this level of power, but I'm giving it to Winter Soldier because I am biased, okay? I just got to top 500 global on Winter Soldier, and I farmed the hell out of people with this character. And there are bad matchups with this character, right? He's not great against long-range DPS. He's not great against Hela. He's not great against Hawkeye. Not looking good for 2 of the most popular DPS, but anything else in the entire game, he farms. He farms tanks. He farms supports. He farms divers. And the reason is because he has a massive amount of crowd control. One of my favorite things to do on Winter Soldier is I play around the front line with my team. Let's say that they have like a Groot and I have a freaking Doctor Strange, right? And we're playing around this choke. We're playing around this choke. I will prime a whip. I will grab someone in at an angle. I'm pulling in the Groot at an angle. I'm priming the whip, pulling him in at an angle, and then I will turn my body slightly into my team, and I will bash him into my team. So now all of a sudden, a Groot that was playing on his side of the line, his side of the choke, thinking he was safe, is now all of a sudden taking a whole bunch of damage, is smack dab in the middle of 4 people or 5 people in the middle of my team. Yeah, that guy gets instantly deleted, and I've done it a bazillion goddamn times. And this is something that you can do a lot where tanks know exactly how long they can stay out. It might be a Venom. It might be a Strange. It might be a Thor, whatever. They know exactly how long they can extend out and get back safely, but Winter Soldier kind of throws a wrench in that by either bashing them or gripping them. And if you catch them on their retreation, if they mess up even slightly against you, you're farming them. Now, I also have a super in-depth Winter Soldier guide that explains exactly how to carry on this character on my channel that you gotta check out if you want to pop off. And while I don't necessarily think that Winter Soldier is like the one trick you should play, if you combine Winter Soldier with like a Hela or a Hawkeye, you have a complete hero pool in the DPS role, in my opinion, that can actually handle anything that comes at you. But I actually play Winter Soldier on stream in Top 500 so you can see exactly what you need to do in your games, and I stream on this channel and on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you're definitely going to want to go check that out right now down below. But if there was a hero you think I missed on this list, or you want to know about how a hero stacks up in the meta, definitely let me know what hero it is in the comments down below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.